good, YouTube? So, we're a third of the way through the year already. It's almost May. Crazy how the time's going so fast. Whether we're playing online or at unofficial locals, if you will, or remote duels, the majority of players are playing again. So, that's a little bit of normalcy that we have once again. And hey, it's been a couple months since we did one of these. So, let's go ahead and do a tier list because, well, we might be getting a ban list as soon as early June. Personally, I don't know if we're going to get one for a few weeks. I think it might push into July before we get it. So, without further ado, let's give us a tier list for this last stretch of the format and let's enjoy it. So, first deck we see here, Cyber Dragons. Man, I am very, very happy. I'm going to actually move them. I've had them as a rogue deck for a while. I am going to bump them up to tier 3, and I'm almost tempted to say, like, back end tier 2, and I mean, that's probably a little bit of biasness, so we're going to leave them at tier 3 to be safe. But I mean, MBT had his 128-man events that he holds online, and Cyber Dragons got top 8 in back-to-back. Cyber Dragons also topped the DCS and were in third place after Swiss just a few weeks ago, going third place after Swiss, going 5-1. They've been topping these different little remote duel, really big locals, if you will, and they're just doing really well overall. There's been some dueling book players near the tops playing Cyber Dragons, and like the deck is really good in the hands of the right player. I'm personally enjoying it and have been posting more and more replays as we've been playing on Dueling Book more recently. So I think Cyber Dragons are probably one of the strongest tier 3 decks of the format. And that brings us into the next deck, which is Guru. More specifically like Guru Dragoon, but I mean, this isn't specific to just Guru Dragoon. So, I mean, and by that, like, whether it's with Eldritch, I think someone actually topped with in one of those local-ish tournaments, like 40-man. I believe they got top 8 with, like, Guru Eldritch even, but I do think that Guru Dragoon is probably the best way to play the deck. Personally, okay, so maybe Guru's the best tier 3 deck. Guru's probably the best tier 3 deck. I've said it so many times, though, I'm really not a huge fan of cards like There Could Be Only One and Summon Limit. I'd rather play, Ice Dragon's Prison, Dogmatic Punishment, and I actually tech in one Ecclesia, too, because on my opponent's turn, a lot of the time between Guru, Dragoon, and those things, I don't need to send in Tis to pop 2 cards. I'll actually send Titaniclad and pop 1. And then in the end phase, I summon Ecclesia and I get another punishment for free, and I have the body on board. So I do like that little play, and it's been working really good for me so far. So I just like traps that aren't dead if I lose the die roll. I don't want to depend on winning the die roll because I'm really not good at winning the die roll. Buster Blader, this deck's again kind of fading by the wayside. It's really good in like more combo formats, more monster heavy formats, and where like Dragon Link specifically is really good, and you're like, what? Hey, Dragon Link's really good. Yes, but they also have Tidying now, the Dragon Maid package, and you run into so much Eldritch and Invoke Shadal and these other decks that Buster Blader doesn't just have these amazing matchups verse, and I think that is a big reason why Buster Blader isn't seeing a ton of play, but it is still a strong deck, whether you mix it with Dogmatica, whether you mix it with the Dragoon engine, similar to you would with the Subterra Guru cards. Our first not tier 3 deck we're going to show, it's the Warrior FTK. I've been fortunate enough to not have to play against it at all online, but I've seen it work and I've seen it in action, and I think it's lacking high level representation for the most part. Like, I think some of the bigger players are playing it for fun and for testing, but when it comes down to it and people are playing in these big tournaments, I just don't think anyone's relying on the deck. I don't think anyone has enough faith in it to really perform and to win them the event. So for that reason, I am going to have the Warrior FTK down as a rogue deck. Another tier 3 deck, we're just going to pile on all the tier 3 right at you guys right away. Altergeist, they actually took second place at the LCS a few weekends ago, and I think part of that was people just weren't quite ready for it. And I mean, the list looked almost identical to what I like when I messed with them and played them a little bit. It looked really similar to like what the standard was before COVID. So, I mean, the deck performed well, obviously, and he piloted it to second place. So I don't want to take anything away from him. I just feel like it was I mean, relatively standard. And hey, if that's still the best deck, like or best way to play it, there's no reason to change it. I just I don't think I can put Altergeist any higher than tier three. I think it was just a case of a good player having a good day, and he did really well piloting the deck. So I think that's more on him than it was the actual Altergeist strategy itself. Finally, we're moving up into the meta charts. Zodiac, tier 2. I think Zodiac is. I've actually been seeing it more and more online lately. Well, Zoo Eldritch. For this one, it's more the pure variant, if you will, but I mean, I guess we can go ahead and throw Eldritch here too. I think Eldritch is a tier 2 deck. Zoo Eldritch as well. Um, it's the Eldritch engine kind of comes and goes with the format for how effective it truly is, and I just think we're in one of those down swings where it's not a tier 1 engine, and some people might say, oh, well, they're tier 1.5. No, tier 1.5 is for people who feel bad that their deck isn't tier 1, so they don't want to label it tier 2. If you're going to go 1, 1.5, 2, you might as well just, use actual whole numbers and say 1, 2, 3. Yeah, but tier 1.5 means it's not tier 1, but it's not tier 2. Oh, so you mean it's not tier 1, it's not tier 3 if only like there was a number 2 in between them. Like I never understood that. Like so that's like the same people who like go 3 rounds at a regional and drop and they just say, "Yeah, I went X3 dropped." It's like, "Yeah, you also only played 3 rounds. You didn't play 8 rounds and then drop." Like I don't know. It's just a way for people to feel better about themselves for things not being as good as they wish they were, and that's just the sad reality of it. ABC Rogue, uh, yeah, it's not like if we were doing our Rogue tier list, I think they would probably be tier 1 or 2. But this is our meta tier list, so I think ABC it's a strong Rogue strategy. Union Carrier getting hit really didn't hurt the deck too much. It took away the Infinity line of play, but it can still pair up with Synchro plays. It can still pair up really well with the Dogmatic engine, ironically enough. And on top of that too, instead of going for Infinity, you just use like Platinum Gadget and combo that way, and then you also make an IP Masquerena, and you can go into like pretty much any Link 4 you want, or even Link 5 Goddess, and have that extra form of disruption on your opponent's turn, or just going into like a 3 or 4 material Appaloosa, going into an Avermax, going into an Unchained Abomination. Like you can go into any of these really strong Link 4s if you would like to, instead of going into Infinity, which a lot of the time already I was going the IP route instead of Infinity when I could. I just used the 2 soldiers for IP because so many matchups it was more versatile and just the better play than the 1 negate anyway. Madolche. This is like Cyber Dragon, a deck that needs a good pilot to do well, but I think it's a deck that can be really strong in the right hands. And I mean, once in a while you'll see a high-rated player running it, and I think that's just because like it's like Cyber Dragon, where a bad player is not going to do good with the deck. A bad Dragon Link player might still go 4-4. A bad Madolche player is probably going to go 0-8 if they stuck it out. Like it's just one of those decks where the player's got to be good for the deck to do good as well. Dinosaurs, I'm going to put them as tier 2. It seems like they top almost every event, but they're not really winning anything. And I think it's just because, like the whole Shadal matchup, I don't think they care too much about Dino. And Dragon Link, like the Tiding engine just really helps give a backup play when you don't have to solely rely on a big monster board like Dragon Link did at one point in time. But Dinosaur, it's always going to be like a tier 1, tier 2 deck. It's pretty much always going to be in one of these categories until Miscellaneosaurus gets hit. Dragon Link, no question, tier 1. Like we really don't even need to talk about this. If you're wondering like what they do and what they're capable of, we actually just did a playing Yu-Gi-Oh video in 2021 where we actually showed Dragon Link, Bird Up, Prank Kids, and invoked Shadal Dogmatica combos and talked about playing through disruption. We talked about disrupting them, and we actually showed a bunch of different deck lists. We had 8 different deck lists overall, from like Cyber Dragons to Mech Knights to Dragon Link to Dinosaur, like just showing the different types of decks and giving examples of decks that are those types and sample deck lists. So it's really just in depth. If you're returning to the game, you don't know what you want to play, or you're looking for a new deck and you've been playing for a while. I've had a few people message me and say it was amazing and the video helped them a lot, and it really opened their eyes to seeing deck building in a different way. And that's what we really want. We just want to try and help people the best that we can, while we can. So I think that's a great video for everyone to check out. Infernobles, I think the deck's just waiting for the right player again. It's a really strong deck. It can still pop off. It can still make a handful of negates. It can still do big things. But like in a combo sense, if you're gonna play it, like if you're playing a deck this far down the tier list, you might as well play the FTK, because Dragon Link is far and beyond the better combo deck. Prank Kids are a better combo deck. Bird Up's a better combo deck. Like there's so many combo decks that are just better, and that's why they're not seeing much play. Invoked Dogmatica, Shadal, Invoke Doll, Invoke Dogmatica, Shadal Dogmatica, whatever combination of those 3, I'm putting that as our second tier 1 deck. I'd almost rather play against Dragon Link than this deck. Like Dragon Link, I don't want to say they're linear because they have a lot of different ways they can play, and in the right hands, like the deck is just insane. But I don't know, part of me, like, Schism is such a crazy card, and just being able to like not respond to it, essentially, if they have Meltdown. Like you can use Cosmic Cyclone, you can use Twin Twisters, but you can't actually negate it. I mean, you can try to, but it won't, if Meltdown's on the field. And like the deck is just so grindy and so strong. The next one we're going to go into, Prank Kids. I'm going to move them right here because this deck I was borderline putting in tier 1. Prank Kids are the best tier 2 deck. There's no question in my mind. I think there's a decent gap. If I were to be that guy and throw a tier 1.5 between 1 and 2, Prank Kids would be that deck. But I'd rather just say they're at the top of tier 2. We actually just had a crazy match versus Prank Kids. It went like almost an hour long on Dueling Book. Just game 3 was like 33 minutes. It was insane. Cyber Dragons can't grind. If you didn't watch that video, you heard me say that enough already. But any Cyber Dragon player especially, go watch that video. Like, it's not trying to like brag or anything, but I think it's a really good, like, seeing how Cyber Dragons can grind and what they can actually do. Like, you don't have to OTK to win. Cyber Dragons are not an OTK deck. I don't care what anyone tells me. That's not true anymore. They're a going second, board breaking deck, and they grind fairly well. So if you don't think Cyber Dragon doesn't grind well, it's because you don't know how to play them well enough. And that will bring us to PK Fire. Yeah, the deck's pretty strong. It's good. I always want to put it higher, but nobody's doing anything with the deck, and I think the potential is there to be like a high 3, low tier 2 deck, but there's just no one playing it. I think it's the Infernable case where when you look at combo decks of the format, there's just so many better combo decks. And if you're like, well, it's kind of a control-y deck too, with like the Fog Blades and being able to summon with the rank up quick play and pop card with Rusty, and well, there's better control decks too. And it's like, well, they're kind of that mid-range. Yeah, but there's better mid-range decks, and I think that's just why PK Fire doesn't see much play, is because no matter how you look at it, there's just better decks all around. Almost done. Then we're going to bed, because we said we were going to bed at the last video we recorded, and we didn't. So, anyway, Bird Up. Bird Up is, we're going to put it as a tier 2. The deck is, I actually, when I was doing that video that I referenced earlier, when I was putting their combos, watching some videos on it, and then like actually doing test hands, the deck's actually really fun. Bird Up is crazy. It's probably the only deck in tier 1, tier 2 that Nibiru's actually good against. And even then, you can't miss your window because they'll go into an Appaloosa before you know it. You have like 1 to 2 summons that you can Nibiru them, and if you don't, they're gonna have an Appaloosa negate it. So you don't want to just like hold it against them. You got to hold it long enough, and then usually at like summon 5 or 6, you need to Nibiru them if you're playing against Bird Up. Few more decks to go. Sky Striker. Anytime a deck can play so many disruption cards and going second cards and be able to just grind and control, they deserve a mention. I think in looking at Sky Striker as a deck, it's kind of like pure Zodiac, but not as good. And that's why pure Zodiac is a tier 2 deck, and I have Sky Striker down as Rogue, because I think that's probably the best comparison between the two right now. But like Sky Striker, I mean, what's their big win con play? What's their big boss play? Like Helk to Selene to access code, but most don't even do that anymore. Like Zodiac can just put out Zeus after Zeus after Zeus, and they have that play that you need to be afraid of and worry about. Sky Striker just doesn't quite have that power level. Deck that we started picking up and playing, I'm pretty excited that list will be to you guys very soon. Almost all of our cards came in real life, and working on a replay video online, as well as a prank kid one. Someone had asked me on our deck profile to do combos and stuff with prank kids, so we are going to have a good video for them as well, and then we'll do Mech Knights shortly after. But so yeah, Mech Knights are a deck that pairs really good with Invoked, if you haven't noticed. This is more of a pure sense. Invoked Mech I would probably put at tier 3, no question, mostly due to representation. It could easily be a tier 2 deck if more people played it. And Mech Knights, there's just not many people playing it competitively. I mean, you have Shannon Long, you have Anastasis Reklos, and I think there's one other guy who regularly plays them, but like those are kind of the 3 Mech Knight guys, and we're actually going to start bringing some replays of them from like higher ranking, like Dueling Book, because our very good friend of the channel, Anastasis, who I'm hoping to learn a lot from, has played them on Dueling Book ranked, and last I checked he was at like 140th on Dueling Book or such, like just under 1,000 rating, and so he's been really grinding away at it with a rogue deck and doing really good. So we're going to get you some of those replays just so everyone can see how good Mech Knights really are. Our final deck, Virtual World. I didn't know where to put them in like 3 or Rogue, and I ended up putting them in 3 because they are seeing some success. Again, with those like 40, 50 man remote, whatever we're gonna call them. Like I'm calling a really big, really competitive locals, or a really small regional. Like you'll see Virtual World actually popping up here and there. They were pretty well represented at the LCS. The DCS actually had 2 of them top, and I think both made it to top 8 even, or if one did for sure, I know. And like whether they're going for like Dragoon and Crystal Wing or hand looping you, it's just a deck that I think some people aren't really ready to play against anymore. The downside to it, it still kind of dies to like the Lancia and to other popular cards that are good right now. But I think Virtual World is still a tier 3 deck, but it's kind of falling down a little bit. But yeah, so if I had to actually rank these really quickly, I'm going to go Dragon Link, Invoked, Mess, Shaddoll, Dogmatica, all that fun stuff. Prank Kids, Dinosaur, Eldritch, Bird Up, Zodiacs, Guru, Cyber Dragon, Buster Blade, or Altergeist, Virtual World. I'm gonna say Mech Knight, PK, Fire right after the FTK. So Mech Knight, FTK, PK, Fire, Infernobles, ABC, Madolche, and Sky Striker. There's our top 19 decks, guys. Let us know down below what you think about our picks. What decks did we miss? Obviously, we cannot fit every deck. There's going to be a lot more decks in Rogue. What decks do you think we missed in tier 1 and 2? That's what I really want to know. And then tier 3, Like we could discuss that too, but I mean, tier three is almost like Rogue, where there's gonna be decks that people can make a solid case for. But tier one and two, I really want to know what you guys think as far as tier one and two go. Let us know down below. Thanks for watching, guys.